Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan for another Inside the Birds. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got the NFL schedule out to talk about. We've got some goings on in the front office to talk about. We've got a little rookie camp notes to get into. So we got quite a bit of topics here we want to get to on Inside the Birds. So it started already, so I'll just let everybody know now. My voice ain't my normal voice today. So I apologize. I don't know. My youngest daughter, Adam, had some kind of like non-COVID virus thing, like a throat issue, and she must have passed it on to me because that or allergies. Because I don't know if you're a big allergy guy, but the pollen around here has been awful. So I don't know, but I sound like like a squeaky guy. I sound like I just hit puberty. So you'll have to bear with me on that, all right?
Gotcha.
All right. Sounds good. How are you?
Good, man. No, I'm looking forward to. We actually have a big announcement in our little promos here. People have been
Sure.
asking, and we got an answer for you on something, and we got some stuff rolling soon. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, the first of the couple of announcements we have that I think is cool, and I'm taking your word for this because this is all you're doing. We had an awesome hour-long interview with former Eagles quarterbacks coach John DeFilippo last week. Got a lot of great feedback. It's up on YouTube. It's on our podcast platform. And you're telling me, and I think this is great, we're going to get flipped back a couple times before training camp to really get into the quarterback position, how he coached it, how he views it, how he scouts it, things like that.
Yeah, in fact, this will really help you if you are someone who gets access to the coaching tape, from NFL.com in the fall. Here's another one for you. It's another huge nugget for you. If you coach high school football, youth football, John's going to, when you listen in, you're going to learn how he coaches. He's recognized as the best quarterback developer in the National Football League. Everyone he's coached has gotten better. You can't really say that about a lot of coaches. He's coached a lot of quarterbacks. We went over some of the lists of guys that he coached and how he has a term that a lot of quarterback coaches use. I love this one: how to get a guy functional in a short period of time, whatever the challenge is. He is one of the all-time stories of getting Jamarcus Russell in, I think, October of Russell's rookie year, because he held out. He didn't sign till late.
Right.
And John told that story of how he came with the idea to use pregame warmups when Jamarcus Russell was the backup for practice time, because he said, just do the math. Over 16 weeks, this is when we had a 16-week schedule, if you all add it up, that's extra practice time, which you wouldn't get because the backup does not get that kind of practice time during the regular season.
Right. And then he mentioned doing the same thing with Nate Sudfeld
Yeah.
in 2016 and
Right.
17 when he was with the Eagles. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be looking forward to having him come back and really get into the quarterback position with us. And then here's what we're really excited to talk about. You've been asking, we can finally deliver. Q&A are going to come back. Quentin, Michael, Jason Avant, the Q&A show is going to come back. So here's how it's going to work. We have to be strategic about this. We're bringing them back. They're going to do either a 4 or a 5 week series with us starting, I think, next week. We'll have more information coming out soon, maybe this week, actually, since this is Monday. So they're going to wrap up everything that's gone on since the end of the season, from free agency, draft, just the overall front office, moves that the Eagles still, the current state of the team in the next 4 to 5 weeks with their episodes. And then we're going to hit that dead period where, it's going to be like late June, July. They got stuff going on. And then we're working on bringing them back for the season, just like they were. So you'll get a little dose of Q&A for about a month. Then they'll take a break and then hopefully be back for the regular season. So really happy to be able to get them on board. It's basically just been, we had our series going on with Greg Cosell. Q&A have been busy themselves. It's not that we didn't want them back sooner, just everything had to come together. So we're really happy to have them back. And just in the meeting that I had with them, Adam, a couple of days ago, they're already tossing out. They're talking about things. I'm like, "Whoa, guys, save this for the pod. Save this for the pod." They're really they're fired up and ready to go. So I know everybody will be excited about that.
Can't wait to hear their opinions on the AJ Brown trade and the draft, and how their off season's gone, and how they think the defense might change a little bit, be adjusted with all the new personnel.
Mm-hmm.
and just what this team looks like. I mean, and then of course we're going to break down the schedule. We've got a lot of schedule notes, but and I mean, I got to think they're pretty psyched about the schedule because this is one of the best schedules the Eagles have had in years. So it just happened to be, one of those things where you go, wow, don't look at it like it's a layup, but you know what? It on paper looks pretty good, and we'll get into that. But I can't wait to hear all their opinions on all that stuff.
Yep. Fired up to have him back. So it'll be really fun and good for Inside the Birds. Some people have been asking us about our newsletter and how you get to it because it's we've gotten a lot of new subscriptions. Again, it's free. It's very easy to subscribe to the ITB newsletter. You can just go to insidethebirds.com, and then within seconds a screen will pop up that asks you for your email address, and you just enter it and you'll be a subscriber to our newsletter. Or if you're on YouTube or podcast, we usually put the link to subscribing in the description box. So you can get it that way as well. Or just email us at insidethebirds@gmail.com and say, hey, I'm like computer illiterate. All I know is how to use an email account. So I'm emailing you. Please put my email address on our newsletter, on your newsletter distribution service, and we'll take care of it that way too. However you want to communicate with us, Twitter, Facebook, just all we need is an email. We'll put it in, and you will be part of our newsletter. So look forward to doing that. And our TikTok account has started.
Oh, yeah.
We've already got our first TikTok up. It was about the schedule. So if you're really into TikTok, or you've got like teenage kids who can show you how to use it, like mine, just go to TikTok. We're at Inside the Birds. That's just as simple as it can be. At Inside the Birds on TikTok. No, you will not see Adam and I doing synchronized dances, but we will perhaps break some news on there at one point, or just use it as a way to promote things that are going on with Inside the Birds. So make sure you check that out as well. Inside the Birds on TikTok. There are a lot of things I could have seen coming when we started this up. Being on TikTok was not one of them, Adam, but I'm glad we are. So
Cool. Yeah.
who knows?
IG, we use IG, but not quite quite a lot. Obviously we use YouTube and Twitter, and Facebook, no doubt about it. We also have the Facebook group, where people were I guess they were loving this guy. I was just perusing over this past weekend. I was perusing the comments. People seem to like the schedule. So, but as you've always said, and I agree, what looks on paper doesn't always look like what's going to happen this season. Because sometimes teams are better than we think, but worse than we think. So,
right,
we'll see. But they do.
I definitely have strong opinions on that.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So yeah, the schedule. It's so interesting. How the Steelers? How does this happen? They're the only NFL team to play all 17 games in the East Coast time zone. How does that happen?
It's very every year there's something weird about the Eagles schedule that I haven't seen that one before, and of course here we are again. But a lot of primetime games, so obviously the Eagles have some national interest. The NFL thinks so. We'll get into that as well. All right, let's get into that. First, I want to ask everybody are you ready to launch your new career in coding? If you are, Treehouse has one of the best and most affordable online classrooms for you. At Treehouse, we have rethought the learning process and built a proven system to get you the skills and knowledge you need to achieve your goals. When you're done with a course, you haven't just watched a video, you've learned, practiced, and absorbed a concept. Or choose to build a portfolio, create a network, and land your dream job with our bootcamp-style tech degree program. Land a dev job this year. Whatever your goal is, we'll get you there. Get 50% off your first month as a podcast listener of Inside the Birds through our special discount link. That's teamtreehouse.com/signup_code/podcorn courses. Let me read that again, and I'm sure we'll have this also in the description for the podcast. It's teamtreehouse.com/signup_code/podcorn courses. All right. So that is Team Treehouse. Welcome aboard to Inside the Birds. Let's get into the schedule, Adam. We got a lot. So my immediate thought looking at the schedule was that last year, it's almost like the inverse to me of last year. Last year, all those really difficult games were in the first 6 weeks. And then they had a light schedule on the back end that was made lighter by all the COVID issues that Washington had, and then the quarterback
Oh,
issues that
right.
Giants had. I mean, they really had a very easy back end schedule, which helped them get into the playoffs. This year, you see some teams in the first 5 or 6 weeks, 7 weeks that theoretically seem a little easier. You open up with the Lions. You do have Minnesota at home. I think Minnesota's tough, but you get them at home. Jacksonville has not been great the last few years. We'll see. They made a lot of moves, but you get them at home early. But then that back end of the schedule has what, three straight road games, right? At Giants, at Bears, at Dallas. You come home for New Orleans, which is I think New Orleans is going to be tough. I know people are like, Jameis Winston, but he was actually playing pretty well before he got hurt last year. I know they beat the Saints at home at the Link last year, but they're still
Yeah,
a tough team.
pretty
So
bad.
when you get that, you get three straight road games, then the Saints, then you have to finish with the Giants, which isn't too bad. But that's it's almost to me like an inverse of last year.
Well, I would say this. Here's why they got lucky. They have not only do they have one of the top three schedules in the NFL. If you just look at the way teams are projected this season, they don't play the Rams, Bills, Bengals, Chiefs, Chargers, Bucks, Dolphins, or 49ers. We're
Right.
talking about really those are the best teams right now, and not included is Green Bay, who they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
So their schedule is terrific. Now they play the Vikings, as we said on our last show. If you're going to play the Vikings, play them early because they're changing their defense. Now the negative is that Mike Zimmer is not coaching their offense anymore, or he's not micromanaging their offense like he has for years. So Kevin O'Connell, the head coach, is going to call the plays. You would think he'll be more aggressive.
Yeah.
So that, and with Justin Jefferson and Thielen and Irv Smith come back from this ACL, and Osborne, who we talked about the last show. So it'll be challenging, and particularly if the Eagles don't address the second quarterback position, they're going to, but if they don't address it in a significant enough way, that could be a problem when teams play 11 personnel. So, and then of course Wentz in week 3.
Yeah.
How great is this? 2 revenge games. I said it lightly, but at Washington, Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next week at home against Peterson. How funny is that?
It's really crazy.
Come on, you know
that they
the
would be
league did
back to
this.
back like that. I know, and I have no idea when these schedules are made, but it's just unbelievable how that comes out.
They're done late March, early April, but then there's the Brady situation, him coming out of retirement. So some people think like that might have delayed the schedule, though I think it still has something to do with keeping interest in the league after the draft.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question that's got to be part of it, but it's just interesting how the schedule broke down. And the shocker to me, so I'd heard I don't know, whenever the heck it came out, what schedule come out Thursday afternoon, I'd heard that they're going to get something about primetime games. There's going to be a surprise coming out. And I'm thinking there's no way they're getting 0-1. No way. They're sort of a quasi-national team. They've got a very good following nationally,
Mm-hmm.
and they do draw good TV ratings. But 5 primetime games, really? Wow, that was a stunner. I would not expect that.
Yeah. So, is the game against what's the Christmas Eve game? Is that New Orleans or Dallas? I'm sorry, it's Dallas. Christmas Eve, right? 4:30.
Yeah, it's not primetime. Right, correct.
Right. That's not considered one of the primetime games.
Yep, correct.
So, all right, yeah, well, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, one of the games that was on primetime kind of surprised me. I couldn't figure out I can't remember which one now. Do me a favor, go through the primetime games real quick.
Yeah, so here you go. Week 2 versus Minnesota, Monday Night Football.
That surprised me a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's one of the they have the doubleheader on week 2,
right?
Monday Night Football. You and I were talking about this the last show. And then they play Sunday Night Football versus Dallas, at Houston on Thursday Night Football.
That's the one. Well, I'm like, why would the Eagles and Texans? But then I remembered Thursday Night Football. They play. That is a wacky schedule. Every year there are some games on Thursday night at 8:00 that don't exactly scream out.
Yeah.
Got the world wants to see this game,
There's some clunkers, you're right, on Thursday Night Football. And then versus Washington on Monday Night Football, and then versus the Packers on Sunday Night Football. So 4 at home, 1 away on prime time, 2 on Sunday night, 2 on Monday night, 1 on Thursday Night Football. And we will see the last game of the year against the Giants. They haven't set the time because that could be flexed. so that they keep them all, they keep most games that week like that because they want to see which games matter and don't matter.
Hmm.
So they'll leave that open. But I'm I mean, if you're an Eagles fan, what respect the league is showing you, and obviously the networks who have the big call there, um, to have the Eagles on prime time 5 times and 4 at home is remarkable to me. Look, they were a playoff team, as you said, cake schedule second half, but you know what? They beat the teams that they had to beat to get into the playoffs, and the Eagles had quite the offseason in terms of adding certain positions. The big AJ Brown trade, they're going to be better. How much better remains to be seen, but what a schedule they have.
You know what's crazy is that Steelers game wound up being the quote unquote 17th game, right?
Oh, is that right?
Because last year was it's the one
Yeah,
team
yeah,
from that division that you're not, yeah, from that division that's finished in the same spot, I think. So yeah, because the Steelers and Eagles don't play very much, and when they do, when they play in Pittsburgh, the Steelers always win. When they play in Philadelphia, the Eagles always win, and this game is in Philadelphia, so I find that to be very interesting. Let's go back to what you said about the Vikings. I thought it was a great point and very relatable to Eagles fans. You said if you want to catch them early while their defense is in a transition from a 3-4 to a 4 or 4-3 to a 3-4. That's exactly what happened to the Eagles last year. Some pretty good teams caught them trying to play a scheme that they were not meant to play, right? Whether with the two deep safeties and the linebacker personnel they had out there and the defensive line, what they were doing, they were not all on the same page. They were discombobulated, and it showed. And a lot of even just good to very good quarterbacks took advantage of them. So I think you're making a great point about the Vikings. However, the Vikings, I agree with you, will probably have a much more prolific offense with Kevin O'Connell. I mean, people make fun of Kirk Cousins, but at the end of the year, his numbers are always pretty darn
yeah.
good. And he's got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. You mentioned Dalvin Cook, Osborne, Irv Smith. They've got weapons there. So right now, you look at the team with their second cornerback situation, as you mentioned. That's an interesting matchup, especially on prime time for them.
Yeah, that would worry me in week 2. Now, the first game of the year, I mean, you don't want to say it's a cake game because Detroit, they've added 3 receivers to their offense. So, and Hawkinson had been hurt. He missed time last year. He's back healthy. They have a very good run game. Uh, they've got better talent now. Obviously, Jared Goff is not the quarterback he once was. Defensively, Jameson Williams. They don't know when he's going to be ready exactly. So we'll see. But Josh Reynolds is back. Amon St. Brown, who had a breakout second half of the season. They addressed the receiver position. Uh, they got the kid from Jacksonville, who the Eagles had some interest in, but DJ Chark, but they didn't go hard because of his coming back from the broken ankle. So when you look at the schedule in the first half, look, here's another break. They're not facing DeAndre Hopkins in week 5. He's got a 6-game suspension.
Good point.
They're not facing Amari Cooper this year because he was traded. They're not facing Ben Roethlisberger, which actually they probably would want to based on what he had played the last couple of years.
Right.
Not facing Deshaun Watson. So it's interesting. They're going to face Rodgers. They did beat Rodgers in the game. In fact, didn't we do a remote at Chickies and Pete's in 2019? Was it 2019? 2018, 2019?
At Chickies and Pete's?
Yeah, for the one on the Boulevard because the Packer game.
Oh, yeah.
That was the Craig James game when they tried to find Sidney Jones and they couldn't find him, so they threw Craig James out there. Was that the game? I think.
Yes, Craig James. That's right.
Yeah,
and he made a nice pass breakup.
yeah.
So that is interesting because some of the teams, like you look at Washington, they obviously brought in Carson Wentz. They drafted Jahan Dotson. Their defense was much better in November and December last year than when they started off. See, they're an interesting team. They're one of those teams that they could be a lot better than we think, and you just don't. I think people tend to latch on to what they remember last, and what they remember about Carson Wentz in the last was that he was awful in the last game of the year. They didn't make the playoffs. The Colts got rid of him. People said bad things about him. But if you go and look at the season as a whole, he didn't play poorly all season long. He actually had a stretch of some really good games. Now, they leaned on the run heavily there in Indianapolis. Ron Rivera does the same thing in Washington. So, and they've got some good weapons, not just Jahan, but obviously with Terry McLaurin, the tight end they got who's going to come back from the injury, Logan Thomas, right? They did add to their offensive line, even though they lost Scherf. So they could be they could be a tough team. I mean, I don't know. There are days where Carson Wentz could look just as bad as Tyler Heineke or just as good as Tyler Heineke, but there are days where he's way better than Tyler Heineke.
Yeah,
So it
Taylor.
just depends on which Taylor Heineke. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It just depends on which Carson Wentz shows
yeah.
up that
Well,
day.
he's clearly much better. He's got
Yeah.
a much better arm. But you're right in that if he implodes in that week when they play Jacksonville in Jacksonville, which the owner Jim Irsay that if he was teetering on either way of wanting to bring him back, that ended it. He had once had no chance, as I understand it, after that game. That Irsay made a decision more or less after that game that he once would not come back.
Right.
I mean, it was his call in the end because an owner can overrule the general manager. Now, the general manager Chris Ballard also criticized Wentz pretty heavily. It was kind of shocking. I'm like, man, why would you do that publicly if you want to move the guy? Yet they still got pretty. They didn't get a first round pick, but they certainly got good value for a guy who they buried publicly. So,
Right.
Dallas. Dallas is an interesting team. We're gonna when we have Cosell on, we're gonna do a series. We're gonna do at a minimum of an NFC East preview for training camp. We might do all the divisions. We don't know yet, but if we only do the NFC East, we'll certainly talk about Dallas. And Dallas has had severe issues with injuries on the defensive line. They've had a couple of guys leave on their offensive line. They lost Amari Cooper in that trade with the Browns. So I don't know if they're going to be as good. And you know what? Zeke Elliott, is he the same player running back? These backs, the bigger guys, they seem to fall off a cliff. And he's been hurt. We'll see if he's the same guy. Dak had the injuries last year, so I don't know how good Dallas is going to be.
I agree. So to me, Adam, the Eagles are going to have to endure weeks 10 to 14. I think that's the spot in their schedule where you say, all right, they got to do their best to at least be 2-2 here, because it's home versus Washington in week 10, then at Indianapolis week 11. Then home versus the Packers week 12. They just never beat the Packers with Aaron Rodgers. And
just the one time.
Yeah, right. They did it once. And then the 13th, week 13, an interesting game at home against the Titans there. So that to me is kind of, and these are late November, early December games right there that you get into that territory of, well, where are we at in the standings? We need to win one or two more. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's going to be like kind of the major part of their schedule that kind of determines whether they're going to be a playoff team or not.
Yeah, the games that would worry me the entirety of the season would start at week 5, just because it's Kyler Murray could run. He's a playmaking quarterback.
Yeah.
I know DeAndre Hopkins is playing, but they were completely different without him. Everything dropped. His stats, his passer rating, QBR, completion percentage. He was a different quarterback without D-Hop. So that certainly hurt them. But Ertz is back. They actually, I never thought I'd say this with Cliff Kingsbury, but they might be a heavy 12 personnel team.
Yeah, because they drafted a tight end, didn't they?
Yeah, the kid in the second round. So yeah,
was it
they brought
Dolchik?
Ertz. What's that?
Was it Dolchik that they drafted?
Greg Dulcich.
I forget who it was, but they drafted a tight end.
Yeah, but right, and then Ertz is back on a 3-year extension. He looked really good. So good for Zach. Yes, they drafted. No, they actually drafted Trey McBride. I thought it was
McBride. That's who it was. You're right.
Right, yeah. With Ertz and McBride, so you're definitely going to be a 12 personnel team. They got Hollywood Brown, by the way, so that game would worry me. Dallas, just because they have the ability to score, but are they as good as they have been years past? That remains to be seen. And then at Indy, Matt Ryan, give him a little bit more stability, more of leadership for the Colts. They still have some issues at wide receiver and at tight end. They have a couple holes on their offensive line. Their defense was not great in the second half of last season. Then obviously Rodgers. Now, do the Titans worry me? Not as much without A.J. Brown. We'll see about Treylon Burks.
Yeah, that's true. But they're like a good franchise. They figure out how to win games. They're not great, but they're good.
They got the number 1 seed without Henry. That was pretty remarkable. It's a good job by the coaches.
Right.
And the week 17, the week 18 will be Giants, but the game at home against, remember, they face the Trevor Siemian Bowl. They faced Trevor Siemian last season, but when they smoked New Orleans. But and I get it. Winston's come back into an ACL. We'll see how good he is, but they've really added some significant pieces on offense. Now, the other thing is, though, for Kamara, from a legal standpoint, we're not going to know anything until at least August.
Mm-hmm.
From a legal standpoint, then if he whether they get suspended or not. But they've got some talent on offense. There's no question about it. But the schedule is very favorable. But just because it looked favorable based on what the teams look like now doesn't mean it will be once we get to the season. Because as we know, there are always surprises. When we go, wow, I didn't expect them to be good. Well, that's going to happen.
This is what I say about the schedule all the time. We don't go through the win loss win. It's ridiculous, because my thing on the schedule is, on top of what you said, is that some teams are surprises. So, like, the Eagles in 2020, you saw them on their schedule and you thought, oh man, we got to play the Eagles, and they wound up winning 4 games, right? Nobody saw that. So there are surprises, but also injuries are everything. So
True.
Your schedule is only as hard or as easy as the talent and the health of the team that you're playing each week.
In that given week.
It's as simple as that. I mean, it really is. So some of these games you might be like, oh, the Eagles are going to beat the Lions. Well, what if 3 guys get hurt in the last week of the preseason, and we've seen that. They opened up against Washington a couple of years ago, down 3 offensive linemen, right? And then also down a wide receiver in that game early. You just never know. So I think it's fruitless. It's fun. I get it. I don't knock anybody in the media or sports talk, whatever, who does the win-loss, win-win, loss, but it means nothing. So, and I don't, it's basically a week-to-week thing.
The Eagles, again, another part of the why you should be positive about the schedule. They only play 3 games outside the East Coast time zone, 2 in the Central, 1 in West Coast. So those games would be at Dallas and at Houston, which are Central. It's only 1 hour time difference. At Arizona, which is 3. And it's really big for the body clock. That's I've heard this consistently from coaches over the years and players about it's really tough. Now, it's funny. Chip Kelly was insistent, like under Andy Reid and maybe Doug. I don't remember for sure, but I know some Eagles head coaches felt like that you should leave if you're playing West Coast team on Sunday night or Sunday, leave Friday. Where Chip Kelly felt through sports science, no, leave the day before, leave Saturday so you don't have to adjust it all. So it's all up to that head coach. Now, when you look at the pockets of games, 2 out of the first 3 are away, 3 out of the first 5. They also have 3 out of 4 at home, weeks 4, 5, and 8. 3 in a row away, weeks 14 and 16. And another thing is they don't play back-to-back road games until through the first 13 weeks. So it's pretty good, man. That's another one. That's a pretty good schedule right there.
Yeah, definitely. There's some convenience to the schedule. That's good. You had a note on the Steelers, right? They have some interesting. Save that for a second because
Sure.
I want to get to that. I think it's fascinating. First, I want to remind everybody about our new partner, Devacor. Over the last year, we've all seen what is known as the Great Resignation, and it's made it clear that there's no better time to change careers than the present. Devacor is a Philly area family-owned career development company that helps guide hardworking professionals on the path to new and fulfilling careers. Unlike the big companies in the career development space that offer the same cookie-cutter career advice and services, Devacor's certified career development team is hands-on, passionate, knowledgeable. They take pride in working closely with their clients to ensure that their experience is personalized and tailored to their needs. So whether you're in need of a new resume, cover letter, CV, or you want to optimize your LinkedIn profile, or just work with a career coach, Devacor has you covered in all spaces. Go to devacor.com/birds to schedule a free 15-minute career coaching consultation and to receive an exclusive 15% discount on your next order. That's devacor.com/birds. All right. So what was this about the Steelers, Adam?
Yeah. So, I mentioned this earlier. So they
I'm sorry. You did?
Yeah, but I'm going to give you a little bit of background. So they got not only do they have all of their games in the East Coast time zone, but another note to this is even their preseason game against Seattle this is ridiculous. Why would Seattle, as you know, in the new schedules, they don't play, teams don't play 4 preseason games, they play 3.
Right.
Why the hell would Seattle agree to fly out east?
That's asinine.
Why would they do that?
I don't know. I always thought
I
all the preseason games were
I thought this
generally easy flights.
right. I thought this was a mistake. Nope, it's not. I'm seeing what the Steelers sent me. No, it's at Heinz Field. And then see they play right. They play the Raiders. Well, the Raiders are flying into Pittsburgh
Mm-hmm.
from Las Vegas. So the only they do have to go south. The Steelers do to Tampa Bay. That excuse me to at Miami. It's about a 2.5 3 hour flight, but that's it. I mean, they get that is an unbelievable advantage. And here's the other thing about Pittsburgh. Yes, Roethlisberger was terrible the past 2 seasons. Now, if Kenny Pickett wins the job, he is playing in the same stadium that he played in college football at Heinz Field. Look, if he's the first round pick, if he plays well, he's going to start at some point this season. We know that.
Oh, definitely.
Trubisky wants to start all 17. So and Trubisky, look, this is the new lease on life for him. Talking to some Bills people, they thought he was terrific in practice. Now that doesn't mean all that much, but at least he showed they could throw the football.
Mm-hmm.
So if Pittsburgh's better with one of those two guys, they'll be better because boy did they reload on and the Eagles also, as you said earlier, they play Steelers in Philly. The Steelers are reloaded at wide receiver. They ended the season poorly there, but they got Calvin Austin, who's super explosive. They got
George Pickens.
Yeah, they got Cosell's guy Pickens. So they've reloaded there. So that actually that's sort of an underrated matchup. That could be pretty good if Pittsburgh could get better play from the quarterbacks.
Mind you, they already had Deontay Johnson, who was like second or third in the league in receptions, and Chase Claypool, who had a pretty good year one and year two. And now he's got some issues he's got to hammer out. He's got some trust he's got to earn back.
Yeah,
that's probably why they drafted receivers. But those are two pretty good, talented receivers, though.
Yeah, he imploded last year. I don't know what happened. He's super gifted.
Well, it's not about his talent. It's about, when you catch a ball and there's only 30 seconds left on the clock and you're showboating instead of getting the ball, your team lined up.
That was bad.
Yeah.
He needs to grow up a little bit. That wasn't the only issue he had last season. So
correct.
He needs to play better. But look, that'll be a tough matchup, particularly so the teams that could spread the Eagles out. Detroit to a certain extent. Because they now could definitely run a decent amount of 11 personnel.
It'll be interesting to see if Jameson Williams is able to play by then.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't sound like it from teams that I talked to. They didn't know for sure, but it didn't sound very positive for him to be able to play week one. Minnesota can with KG Osborne. We'll see what Washington can do, who their third receiver will be. Oh, Jacksonville certainly can. And Doug will do that because Doug did it his first 2 years. Eagles were heavy 11 personnel, and then once the Eagles drafted Goddard, he had to lean towards 12. Pittsburgh, as we said, can. After that, the Giants sure can. If these guys are healthy, they absolutely can.
Yeah, they got some players.
Yep. The Saints can, and the Saints can. So, yeah, that'll be a problem.
Eagles got to get that secondary squared away. It's funny. I asked Quentin Michael, I said, hey, can you still play safety? And he said, I could be a box safety and goal line. And I said, good enough.
They need one more
Eagles may need you.
See, they could get away with it, but it's just the corner they can't. They can't line up at second or third corner.
Well, they can't get away with having an injury, though, because if Anthony Harris or Marcus Epps got hurt, that's not a good. I mean, you have no depth as it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Better hope they stay healthy there. One last thing that stuck out. You may have probably made the point, but I'm going to reemphasize it because you talked about all the good teams that they don't have to play. Those teams that are expected to be good. There's also not a whole lot of elite quarterbacks other than Aaron Rodgers on this schedule. I mean, there's
true.
There's I don't know how many I mean, Dak's. Well, you always know that Dak's gonna be on the schedule anyway, but they're gonna see what Justin Fields is like in year two.
Outside the division. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Outside, obviously, Ryan Tannehill will be back with Tennessee, I imagine, unless he's hurt and Malik Willis is the guy. Yeah. Now Matt Ryan's a really good quarterback, and I think he'll be a lot better on Indianapolis. So that's good for them. But Davis Mills, I guess, for the Texans, and probably Kenny Pickett or Mitchell Trubisky. Kyler Murray at one time looked like he was on the way up, but now not so much. and we'll see about Trevor Lawrence. But there's really there's no future Hall of Famer that we know of other than Aaron Rodgers and maybe Dak on the schedule.
They get a huge break. No D-Hop in week 5. Pittsburgh hasn't settled on their quarterback yet. Obviously, they will by the end of training camp. It's Aaron Rodgers. They've not beaten him in Philly. He's still elite. Still, one of the top 5 quarterbacks of all time. Tennessee. Now you got to stop Derrick Henry. That's the key. You stop Derrick Henry, you completely shut down the Titans. They can't do anything without Derrick Henry doing anything. If you shut down Derrick Henry, now you've traded A.J. Brown. That of course the hype machine will be unbelievable that week in Philly. And then Justin Fields, as you say, and Daniel Jones. Talking to the Giants, they're pretty optimistic that Dable will have a positive impact and get them going. We'll see. We'll see. But they've made some pretty significant upgrades, they think, on their offensive line, and Saquon Barkley's back. But overall, this is a favorable schedule. Now, as you said, how favorable remains to be seen, because I'm not saying Houston will be that team, but one or two of these teams that we're saying aren't going to be very good. Like Jacksonville, they've added a lot of pieces, new coaching staff.
Yeah, I can see them being better than people think.
Yeah, I mean I think their over under might have been 6.5, which I thought would be like the Jets is 5.5. The Jets have a 5. The Jets is 5.5, but they have a very difficult schedule based on the way these teams look on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But they have I think they have a better roster than Jacksonville. But again, and maybe it's the Colts. Maybe the Colts take a big jump under Matt Ryan, as you were talking about,
right?
Or Washington with Wentz. He plays good football. He did. Cosell told us up to the final 2 weeks. Greg thought he played pretty well.
Yeah.
So it's a leadership thing with him. Not taking getting the vaccine, which the way the teams look at that, when you're the quarterback, again, it's each everyone's individual choice. But if you're not available when you need to be available,
right,
and you had a chance to prevent not being available, the hour is going to be right on your back.
Yep. All right, so that's pretty much my observations on the schedule, your observations on the schedule. Anything else that sticks out before we move on? I'm excited, by the way, about one thing that sticks out, and I don't even know what to make of it, but how are they not playing the Jets in the preseason finale? They're playing the Jets in the preseason opener. What is up with that? Does that break like a 30-year tradition?
Let me see.
They have played the Jets in the preseason finale since like before I was born, I thought.
Right. Who is their? Don't they play the Dolphins in the preseason?
Yeah. But they play the Jets in the opener, so they still play them.
Yeah.
They're just not closing the preseason out against them.
They play the Andrew Berry Browns, and who Eagles and Browns had their personnel people leave to go to the other team, and then they close at Miami, which will be now. I can't remember because the third preseason week will be at the Dolphins. Did the teams use that as the usual fine tuning for the regular season? Do they play the starters a lot? I don't even remember last year.
My recollection is that the Eagles played no starters in the third preseason game. No, okay. Well, they played like Devontae Smith and Jalen Reagor, but they didn't play like Jason Kelce. They didn't play most of the starters.
Okay.
And I remember the preseason opener, I think they did. They played everybody but Miles Sanders. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. And people are like, what are they holding him out? Why are they holding him out? They're going to trade him.
Yeah, it was very odd that they did
right,
that.
I know. That's why I brought it up, because I don't know how I don't know how this is going to work. Is this the first year the league did this?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see. There might be, who knows? They may take it differently. Boy, that was really interesting how they did that. And we'll have to take a look at how the other teams are doing it. But we'll see. We'll see how they do it. But the schedule is fascinating. And the Eagles, their home opener is on Monday Night Football, but in week 2.
I do love that they're playing 4:30 Christmas Eve, by the way. I mean, I think that's really cool. I think it's cool that they're not playing on Christmas because, you can enjoy the day we don't have to do a pregame show. We don't have to do anything. We get it out of the way. As a reporter, the Eagles played the Cowboys on Christmas Eve one year when I was on the beat, and it was a night game, I believe. Mark Sanchez game. Lost that game.
Ooh.
I think it was that. And then my flight the next morning on Christmas Day supposed to be very early, but it was delayed a little bit. Then we got to Philly and we had to stay on the plane for 25 minutes because there was no terminal to
Oh,
park in. So I was excited. I thought I was going to get home before my kids were awake. And I got home by like almost noon. And I was very,
oh.
very disappointed to be home that late on Christmas Day. So that sucked. It's funny, totally random story. Quentin Michael, who was not playing at the time, flew in. Apparently, had a flight also in that day. He said he saw me at the airport that day, and he couldn't. I was too far away, but he's like, "You look really mad." So I must have been. It must have been. You could see it on my face how mad I was to
There's
get off that
nothing
plane
worse.
later than I thought I was going to be on
There's
Christmas Day.
nothing worse when a plane arrives early
Right.
and has to sit on the tarmac because the airline does not have anyone to
Oh, it's the
get the
worst.
jetway over to the plane. It's embarrassing. It's
It
just,
is.
there's no excuse for it. Uh, I hate it, and everyone does.
Yeah.
It's then of course in Philly, coming back from wherever I was, for the draft, I was flying back to Vegas. My and I never pack. I mean I never yeah I mean I never check a bag, but I had to because the rules are you can only have two carry-ons. So I had to take suits with me. So I had to pack a bag, and I had to check a bag, and of course it took 45 minutes. And someone who I ran into said, "Man, never check a bag in Philly.
Yeah.
When you come back, it's always late." I'm like, "What? Come on." This guy goes, the last time he checked a bag, it took 2 hours to get his bags back. I'm like, that
Oh
no
my
way.
God, that's insane.
Come on.
2 hours is a little
I know. I'm like,
ridiculous.
it's
That might have
ridiculous.
been an exaggeration.
That's what the guy said. That's what I thought. But but the funny thing is, as soon as we got to the carousel, the guy goes, "Just warning you, last time I took US Air, it took 2 hours to get my bags." I'm like, sorry, excuse me, it's now called American. I'm like, don't jinx it, dude. You jinxed it. It took 45 minutes. Anyway,
Well, all I know is this year on Christmas Eve we'll have our show, and then I'll be home, the family, for a little seven fish dinner. Hopefully, we're in time for that. Watch the game, and then Christmas is off, sort of. So, all right, let's move on to some other things first. I want to tell everybody about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. Let's pause real quick for a word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you hop out there to Westchester, PA to see our friends at Sky Motor Cars, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You'll get a great deal. All right, I want you to be perfect. I want you to be totally honest with me. How awful do I sound right now?
you sound like you got a scratchy voice, but you
Okay, it
got
doesn't sound as bad as I think.
no.
Okay,
It's like you got a hoarse voice. That's all. It happens.
I feel like I sound terrible. So, and I'm
But
getting
no, the
worse.
first couple minutes, I was like, uh-oh. No, you're doing a good job dealing with it. The We've done I don't know how many hundred shows. It's amazing to me
Uh-huh.
that we've both had our voices well. I think you might have had one other issue with your voice over
I
the
do remember
years.
once having an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, but I we've been very lucky throughout the years of doing this, and not only that, of the doing the live shows at Rivers Casino last fall.
Oh, knock on
Um,
wood.
yeah, no, we got through it, man. It was other than week one, which was a disaster, but after
Mm.
that, it was just phenomenal, and cannot wait to see what we do this fall. We'll announce that at the right time once we have our deal done. But we got some other things hot in the hopper, so they say, for the fall, and we'll see what happens. But just before we move on to the next note, very small OTA note. I'm so glad we have Q&A back, because now if you look with Greg back, Q&A back, our show's back as well. We've got you covered through the rest of May, June, and July, leading up to training camp, and then we're going to take a look at a couple of different options for training camps, new stuff that we had not done before.
Mhm.
Some people would ask us, could we ever do a show at training camp? No, we couldn't, like WIPs in like a trailer. No, we actually taped a show. Did we? Yeah, in fact, I know because I saw you. We taped a show from there, in the media, in the media room, area, I think. But
From
Novacare, but
Yeah.
not like doing it live. Like someone asked us if we could do it live last summer. I was like, that's not something we probably would do.
Right.
But I don't know. We're looking at we want to do something good for training camp. We're looking at some options, and because it's always cool if you could do a live stream with your thoughts right after what you saw. Because what happens is, if Geoff and I go to Wednesday practice, the next show will drop Thursday, and we think there's something really cool that we saw. Boy, why do we have to wait? I'd like not to have to wait, but it is
Right.
what it is.
It is what it is. All right. So rookie camp is past us, and then pretty soon they're going to start the OTAs, which is, as we talked about, it's going to be the same schedule as last year. So they're going to knock them all out real quickly and then be gone by June or mid-June or something like that. So what have you heard so far about OTAs?
Nothing. I don't really. I only pass them along if I think it's interesting. But most of
Okay.
it's just there's not. This is why I don't take it seriously. I put no stock in. This will be my 20th year covering the NFL. I put next to no stock in off-season programs, except when there's something that I find interesting. Like I remember talking to the Bills when they had Gabe Davis, who will start now opposite Diggs. They told me how smart he was, and one
Hmm.
person with Bill said smartest rookie this guy had ever been around. He learned their X, their Z, and their slot position. Like typically, you're not going to ask the rookie receiver to learn that during the pandemic. This is 2020, right in the heart of the pandemic. So I thought that was worth mentioning. I remember doing some reporting on that. So getting all the minutia of information we got through the rookie camp. Most of us like, okay, great, 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 great. Oh, this is interesting. I'm going to mention this.
Hmm.
Cam Jurgens we know that he's going to back up Kelsey. They hope. Well, they expect him to, but they hope he's ready to do that. Uh, Jurgens looks the part in terms of when you grade a guy on tape, you watch a guy, if you're scouting him on tape, if you go to a game, he was at Nebraska, that's one thing. But when you get him into your facility and you get in front of him, and we know he's just in the learning phase. There's nothing to there's no don't make any judgments on this. But the term that I got is he looks the part. He does look athletic. The movements are what you thought they would be. So that's good. Whereas if you guy looks something on tape and then it comes in and you don't look athletic, then you got a problem. So
Hmm.
I just thought I'd mention that. That's of all the rookie camp stuff we got. I mean, most of us just who cares. But okay, great, good. The guy got off to a good start, but there's really nothing to report because there is nothing to report during rookie camps because you can't. There's no competition. You're just
Right.
trying to learn. Now, when I do think it's something you mentioned, if I think or you think from your sources that a player's really behind in his learning, we're going to mention that.
Yeah.
Like that, to me, that stuff's really important because that stuff
Yep.
matters.
Yep.
I don't care if this guy beat the other guy. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Right.
But if a guy's learning is bad, the term is if the guy's a high rep guy, which means you got to keep giving more reps because he's not getting it. That stuff we're going to start mentioning. And we'll
Hmm.
mention it once the veterans, and particularly for the mandatory camp. If we think someone's behind, we're going to mention it because
Right.
that stuff could carry over to training camp.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt about it. Um, there was something I wanted to say. So right now it's hard because of the injury situation, but I'm trying to envision what the second team offensive line looks like. Cam Jurgens is the center.
Should be.
Um, your guards, I guess, would be as of now Sua Opeta and who am I missing? LaRaven Clark.
Second, yeah. I would say, well, okay, left to right, second team offensive line.
Yeah.
Dillard is the left.
Right.
Opeta probably because he only could play one guard spot would back up Dickerson.
But
Jurgens
he's
is
is
center.
he better at right guard or left guard? I can't remember.
I don't. Yeah, it's just we were told one of them, and
Excuse me.
that's actually what happened. They would only play with the one guard spot. Uh, now Jack Anderson, if Jurgens isn't ready,
Anderson,
I
right.
suspect he will be for week one in terms of okay, if Kelsey gets hurt, he would be the guy. It's not definite though. He's got to show that he's ready to do that. But he certainly looks athletic enough to move, and he's bigger than Kelsey.
Yep.
Uh, Jack Anderson could be that guy because they really value him, and Isaac Seumalo is definitely the starting right guard. They may or may not say it's a competition. My understanding is they're expecting it to be Seumalo. There's no delusions here. It would have to be something pretty significant
Really?
for that not to happen. Yeah, that's just kind of the intel that I have from multiple people. Scott Driscoll.
So Driscoll then, when healthy, is a backup guard.
Guard tackle. Yeah, he could play backup guard, right tackle, but they're not. They're not. I would put Isaac in pencil only
Right.
because
Like they feel that if all goes well,
yeah,
Isaac's job.
they're
But yeah.
Saban's a better football player. It's not close. I mean, he's just a better football player. Now, is he as
Mhm.
good as maybe some other people think with Eagles? So I know that since we started the show in 18, boy, they once he had that breakout season at 18, they felt like this kid's a stud. Now, I wouldn't go that far because he's had a lot of injuries. Some tape is better than others, but he's a solid football player. Like there's no question. But I don't think he's nowhere close to being elite or anything like that.
No, but
Um,
you really think it's not close between Sayamalu and Driscoll as far as their
well,
talent?
Isaac's been a long time starter, obviously since
Yeah, but he hasn't
18,
always
19, 20.
started well. I mean,
But
he has.
well, he's had a couple bad games, okay,
Mhm.
but overall, he's just a better football player. Now, could
I could
Driscoll, who
understand that. Yeah,
yeah, could Driscoll? Now the other problem is Driscoll's played 2 years has been hurt a lot.
he has been. Well, so has
So
Sayamalu lately.
yeah,
Yeah,
Isaac has, but he's had some terrific games, like where you go, wow.
right.
Not that you would say he could be a Pro Bowler. You put him at that step below Pro Bowl. That's a term I came up with where they're not quite that level. He's been that many games where he's just below Pro Bowl, but
That's a
it's
fair
been the
point.
injury.
Sayamalu's best games have been better, way better than say Driscoll's best
Yeah,
games.
yeah,
That's fair.
he's a better football player. Now the question would be is how much patience they're going to have with Isaac if he does start, if he is the starter like we expect.
Mhm.
If he keeps getting hurt, what obviously Driscoll will be that guy to step in. Will they give Driscoll the opportunity to keep the job? Isaac's on, by the way, he's on the last year of his deal.
Right, right. Interesting stuff. Good offensive line. I mean, good problems to
Oh,
have.
so
You
good.
got guys like Andre Dillard, Laraven Clark, Jack
Great point.
Driscoll,
Absolutely.
Cam Jurgen as your backups. That's you're doing pretty good, I guess.
And right. And look, the Wushika kid,
Oh yeah,
uh, who's
and Jack
little bit,
Anderson.
yeah, Jack Anderson we mentioned earlier, who could play center or guard.
Hmm.
Yeah, and look, and now if we'll see, we'll check into Dillard once the mandatory camp comes up. We'll find out if in fact I'll be there for that. I assume you would be there as well.
Hmm.
Um, we'll see if he's going to get some reps at guard like we heard.
Hmm.
We heard it was not definite; it's just something that they were discussing potentially doing.
Right.
So we'll see. And then the Covey kid, one other note, he definitely looks very quick in a short area.
Hmm. Britton
In
Covey.
terms of running routes as a slot receiver and plus as a returner. But I don't. They're not. You can't hit anyone. You can't really do much.
Right.
So I don't read too much into it. I want to see Devin Allen. I want to see him
Right.
as a returner in training camp. They got to get this return game going.
Yeah. Now he didn't participate in the rookie camp, correct?
Yeah, he was doing the pen
Pen
relays.
relays. Yeah.
Once we get to, I'm really interested to see how explosive he is after all the knee injuries at their mandatory camp.
Yeah. And the 6 years in between playing football.
Yeah,
Not to mention
meaningful
that.
football since 14. Yeah,
Yeah.
where he put big, pretty good numbers up.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So we've been talking a lot about the front office, and there's not much a development, which actually might be what's worth reporting right now. That there's really not been much of development. We've talked about the interviews that Howie Roseman has done with Brandon Hunt of the Steelers and Morocco Brown from the Colts. And the last we reported in our last podcast was that Howie still wanted to see or talk to a few more candidates. I don't know that he's talked to anybody since then. I haven't heard that he's had. I don't know if you've heard that he's had. But the fact that we're still in this phase and none of those guys were hired or an offer that we know of sort of makes me think, and just some intel I've got is that he may not hire one of these guys from the outside that we've talked about, whether Morocco or Brandon Hunt. And, it sounds like from what I'm understand, he's just not ready yet to make a commitment there. So we'll have to see what that means going forward and why it is that he brought some guys in and, wound up not doing anything with them, if that's what is the case. But, we thought Brandon Hunt, well, we knew Brandon Hunt was a guy that Howie particularly liked. But again, we're now about a week, when this comes out, about a week removed from the interview and don't know of any offer or hire that's been made there. So
Yep.
that should just raise the alarm a little bit, like, hey, what's going on here? Maybe it's not what Howie thought.
Yeah, I know the speculation they would have an assistant GM. What we're told is in our reporting here, we got a bunch of things just to cover very quickly here. Is that that's not definitely happening. It just depends. There's some moving parts. What we're told is they're definitely going to, barring something unforeseen, they're going to hire two new personnel directors because two guys left.
Mm-hmm.
Now, uh, Brand Carthon, although a Niners source disputes that it was for assistant GM, because they would not have blocked him. We were told by multiple sources that Carthon was blocked over a week ago to interview with
Right.
the Eagles. Well, he's the
Right.
personnel director. Like, how in the world are you blocking him to be an assistant GM? That's what the Niners source said. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't buy that's
Right.
why they blocked him. But anyway, he definitely was blocked. And then we're told they have at least two other people they want to talk to.
Right.
Oh, and as you first reported last week, Andy Weidel will interview his second interview for the Steelers GM job on Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yep.
Good luck to Andy.
Yep.
And see, here's another thing: if he gets that job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Joe Douglas, that he had an agreement with Roseman that he wouldn't he would only, there were a couple low level people he took. He wouldn't take any of the main people with him. That was their agreement. Ironically, his brother, who was let go by the Eagles with 1 year left on his deal, Casey had an opportunity to go with Andy. He turned that opportunity down, we were told back then. He wanted to stay with the Eagles. He was getting married and he wanted to keep everything kind of status quo.
Do you mean
But
go with Joe? You said
yeah,
go with
yeah.
Andy. You meant Joe,
I mean,
right?
go with Joe.
Okay, just
Yeah,
making sure.
my fault. Yeah, my fault. Thank you. Yeah, it was supposed to be. He had an opportunity to go with Joe, I meant, with the Jets, and he turned that opportunity to stay with the Eagles. So we'll see if if he goes with Andy, you would think he would go with his brother to the
Mm-hmm.
Steelers, come home to Pittsburgh.
Right.
So that would be. Is there anything else we know? It's pretty much we talked about the expected promotions. We say expected because until the reason why we don't say will happen, because I'm going to tell you why. Unless the contract's signed, it's not done. And these people, by the way, could have a slip put in by another team, which we
Yes.
try to explain on the last show. These strange things happen with promotions and slips put in when you don't expect it, and things happen, man. You'd be surprised. There's been there guy you never know who has relationships with other teams. That's the thing that teams find out, and they're kind of surprised when the slips come in. Like, wow, we didn't know this was coming in. What's going on here? So stuff like that
Right.
does happen.
Well, look, as you mentioned, good luck to Andy. If he wants that
Yeah,
job, one of the things he's going to have to do
yeah. Thank you.
is,
Wants it.
yeah, impress
Pittsburgh.
Mike Tomlin, because we know that Mike Tomlin's voice is very powerful in that organization, and he's got a presence, as far as I'm told, for as far as, when the interviews are coming in, they're meeting with Mike and he's getting his feel on it. And I don't think, from what I understand, Kevin Colbert, while it's, he was been the man there for many years and they listen to him, I don't know that he's any part of a driving force behind these interviews. So I think Mike Tomlin's now the guy with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he certainly deserves it, who you're going to have to impress if you want to be working alongside him as general manager.
Right, and former Eagles executive John Spytek had a second interview. Ryan Cowden from the Titans,
Right.
Andy Weidel, Brandon Hunt. That's
So Doug Whaley.
Doug Whaley.
had
Yeah,
one.
wow, yeah,
Yep.
who's been with the Steelers before.
Yep.
The there is it's hard to, and I know Omar Khan, who does their contracts, has been there for a
Oh, of
long
course.
time.
Omar. Yeah.
Is in the running for it as well. He got a second interview, but it would be interesting if Omar got it, who his right hand man would be. We know, but I just asked around. No one seems to know that.
Right.
And there's every GM has their guy that they bring in if they're allowed to. If they're not blocked
Right.
as their right hand man, they always have a guy that they like. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, that's going to do it for my scratchy voice in this episode of Inside the Bird, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. We'll have another one on Thursday morning, and hopefully I'll be a lot more smoother by then with the voice, vocal cords.
Thank you. Hey,
go ahead.
I want to say thank you for my dog Twiggy. She is with me tonight.
Oh, nice.
She's been a good girl. Our first girl who we rescued. No, we adopted. I'm sorry, we adopted. She's got. You could follow her on Twitter. My wife runs the account. She's run forever. They have like 8,000 followers for dogs.
Is that what the Yogi the Good Boy account?
Exactly. The late Yogi. Yes. Yeah. There's some incredible stuff on there. I got to give my wife credit. And Twiggy's so photogenic and unbelievably athletic. If you have a dog, she's a schnoodle, by the way.
Love
Which
schnoodles.
we didn't know we were getting a schnoodle, which is 75% poodle, 25% schnauzer. That would explain her craziness, but she's a good girl. So
What a mix that is.
Oh, but one more. Your Phillies podcast. You're
Oh
still
yeah,
doing it, right?
yeah, that'll be out probably
How about
Monday,
their
Tuesday,
weekend?
Monday night. No, it'll be out either this afternoon or Tuesday. Yeah, we
Okay.
got. Listen, man,
Wow. All
really,
of a sudden.
I don't want to be negative. I'm very happy. You got to be happy with how, but blowing that last game against the Dodgers. Oh
Yeah.
man,
What are you gonna
would have been.
do? I mean, first of all, they
I
had the
know.
one inning where they got, hey, Twigs, where they got lucky because the guy had an error. I mean,
Right.
So and then they didn't do anything after that. But look, Familia, he got lucky. I mean, first two guys get on base, but then he did throw a ground ball, for a double play. But the Phillies are going to be fun. And how about Harper setting a record for an opposing team? And he didn't even
Yeah.
play on the final game because he got the PRP injection.
I know he's hitting everything in sight right now. It's fun to watch. Those bats came alive. I hope when they come back here that the
Yes.
bats stay alive because the pitching's been
Please.
pretty decent. They just
I
gotta get a little more outs in the bullpen, which hasn't been
When's-
bad, but
When's the last
they've
time?
had some
When's the last
meltdowns.
time you've been to a Phillies game?
I went last year.
Oh, did you? Okay, we
Yeah.
got to go. We'll
Absolutely.
we talked to my guy there. We'll definitely go. Yeah, for
All
sure.
right. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on YouTube. His channel is called Sports Talk with Broads. His website is broadsmedia.com. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.